What the hell is up, everybody? Louis back here for a fun fight night. UFC, Kansas City, Missouri. Very important fight at featherweight, 145. Max blessed Holloway coming back after that disappointing loss, taking on Arnold Almighty Allen for the #1 contender spot. Volkanovski and Yair are going to have their title fight in July. If Allen wins, #1 contendership, he's fighting for the title next. And Max, he could fight for the title next if Yair beats Volk. But either way, Allen is going to fight for a title next. Should be fun, man. I'm very excited. We'll see how Max Holloway looks. A lot of anticipation. You also got Edson Barboza taking on Billy Quarantillo at 145 as well in the co-main event. Edson Barboza coming off of that rough loss to Bryce Mitchell a little over a year ago. So we'll see how he bounces back. And is this Billy Quarantillo? This is his shot to make a run at something, to get into the top 10. And stake his claim. Got Dustin Jacoby making a comeback after the close fight to Khalil Roundtree. And then you got Tanner Boser making his 205-pound debut, light heavyweight. We'll see how that one goes. Kind of interesting there. And then at bantamweight, you got, it's moving day at bantamweight again. Chris Guapo Gutierrez taking on Pedro Munhoz. Chris, he needs to get a win over an established veteran. He got that vicious knockout against Frankie Edgar. And Pedro Munhoz, you know, this is his gatekeeper role. There's no contest with O'Malley, so is he going to beat this up-and-comer, or does he kind of pass it? We'll see. But if Chris wins, huge opportunity for him. So very excited. Bantamweight continues to move all the time. And then Clay Guida's on the card, so it's just going to be a fun one. Also, I don't know why it's so low on the card. It's the prelim co-main event, 125 pounds men's flyweight. Brandon Raw Dog ROYVAL taking on Mateus NICOLAU. I mean, the winner of this might get a title shot. I mean, flyweight is not like set in stone yet, but Moreno and Pantoja are going to have their title fight. So the winner of this, I would assume, would be next probably or on deck. So, and it should just be a fun one, man. Flyweights are fun. I wish they had more flyweight fights. I wish it would be higher on the card. But anyway, let's get into it. A ton of fights. First fight of the night at 135 pounds. Women's bantamweight, Jocelyn Edwards taking on Lucy PUDILOVA. Edwards took on Jiyeon Kim her last fight. Missed weight, by the way. In the first round, she presses forward with some front kicks and leg kicks, but then she eats some crosses in return. But then she cuts her off in the cage, lands some straight combinations, starts the field a little bit. And then in the second round, she throws the straight flurry, and then she's able to land some more body kicks. But then she keeps herself open, eats a couple counters when she's walking into her. She walks into a couple jabs, but she eats a 1-2 after she lands a leg kick. Then in the third round, she chases with a 1-2-3 combination, still open to counters though, just kind of leaving her chin open. But then she's able to clinch off the leg kick, and then she's able to get the wizard kick. Tries to go for the armbar. Sorry, she gets wizard kicked. Goes for the armbar, doesn't work. But then she's able to get back up and lands a 1-2 off the break. And then Lucy PUDILOVA, she took on Wu Yanan her last fight. In the first round, she gets a double to the fence. They get into a clinch battle. She's able to shoot a high-level double under a jab, right in the side control. Doesn't do a whole lot, but gets that round easily. Then in the second round, she stalks, lands some jabs and some leg kicks, but then she eats some counters on her way in. They both clinch, and she's able to get the headlock, takes her back, goes for a naked choke attempt, and then she's able to get into side control, transition a full mount, TKO via ground and pound. Very nice work for her. Lucy PUDILOVA, -135, Jocelyn Edwards, +115. Low-level women's bantamweight, I'm going to go with the underdog, Jocelyn Edwards. She might be able to outstrike her. You know, Jocelyn Edwards, she might get taken down, but whatever. I don't know. I'm going to go with her +115, Jocelyn Edwards. I'm not going to think about it. Second fight of the night, 135 pounds, men's bantamweight. Aaron Phillips taking on Gaston Bolanos. Aaron Phillips last fought in June 2020. He took on Jack Shore. In the first round, he gets pressured back, and he lands a body kick, but he slips a jab, but then he gets taken out with the double off the fence. He's able to work up, but then he gets passed by. He tries to build back up his base, but then he gives up his back, trying to get up, eats some nasty ground and pound, and he gets to his feet, but he's not able to break the clinch, eats a couple knees to the head for his trouble. Then in the second round, he loads up a Superman punch, and then he gets taken out with the double, and he gives up his back, gives up the cross wrist, gets submitted with the rear naked choke. So yeah, not a lot to like there. It was against Jack Shore, though. Jack Shore's pretty good, but And then Gaston Bolanos, he last took on Daniel Carey, his last fight in Bellator. In the first round, he circles on the outside. He lands some step and leg kicks. He stalks forward, and then he lands some jabs and some body kicks. and then he'll partially land, and then he'll circle around, just kind of sticking and moving. But then he slips the crosses, and he's able to circle on the outside. They get into a pocket exchange. He lands a leg kick and a front face kick. He was able to break the clinch with the overhand whenever he gets pressed. And then he lands overhand right, and then he drops him with overhand, and he gets to the knockout via ground and pound. So, very good ending to that fight. And, yeah, man, Gaston Bolanos, minus 195. Aaron Phillips, plus 165. Really tough one. Gaston hasn't fought in a little bit, but it's certainly sooner than 3 years. Aaron Phillips, like, God knows what he's been doing for 3 years, and I don't like this price tag. Like, I should go with Aaron Phillips, but I think Gaston Bolanos, like, I think he's onto something here, and I think he wants it, and I just don't want to bet on somebody that's been on for 3 years. It's not like Phillips really has any big knockout power or anything. I think, yeah, Gaston Bolanos could probably put him out, so it's a really stupid bet, but I'm going to go with Gaston Bolanos here, minus 195. I think he's going to outwork him, man. And he's been training. Aaron Phillips has been off for a very long time. But watch me get this one wrong like I did last weekend. Third fight of the night, 115 pounds, women's strawweight. Bruno Brazil taking on Denise Gomez. Should be interesting. Brazil took on Marnik Mann on the Dana White Contender Series. In the first round, she hurts her with the front kick to the body, goes to the clinch. And then she's able to reverse the clinch, stuffs the headlock attempt. And then she gets her own headlock takedown into side control, really nice. Second round, she gets clinched off of her leg kick, but then she's able to reverse, and then she breaks free from there. And then she circles on the outside. She's landed some jabs and some overhands whenever she was pressing towards her. And then she gets clinched off of her body kick, but she's able to stuff a takedown attempt. But then she gets taken down with a single, but she uses the butterfly guard to successfully sweep, reverse the position. Really nice use of that. And then she circles on the outside. She lands a step-in right hook, and then a head kick gets the knockout. So, yeah. Don't see too many knockouts from women in general, really, so good luck. Denise Gomez took on Loma Lukbunmi her last fight. In the first round, she pressures towards the cage. She catches the kick. She tries to get the body lock lift, but then she gets reversed, and she gives up her back, but she's able to swim out, and then she's able to get the reversal, gets the arm triangle, tries to go for the arm bar. Then she goes for the triangle, but then she eats some ground pound at the end there, but at least she's going for some attempts. Then in the second round, she rushes forward with the hook, but she gets taken down with the body lock. But she's able to stop the back take, and then she gets back to her feet. She lands a step and elbow. She shoots a single against the fence, but then she gets taken down with the headlock right at the end there. Tough one. Then in the third round, she lands a spinning elbow. She lands some hooks to a clinch on the fence, but then she gets headlocked again. But then she's able to use the leg lock to take her back, kind of just pass it over like a funk in wrestling. She goes for a rear naked choke, but then she eventually gets reversed, tries for the armbar underneath, but then she eats some ground and pound. So, you know, tough one. She's pretty scrappy. She doesn't really hold position all that well, but, you know, decent scrap. Denise Gomez, plus 130. Bruno Brazil, minus 150. I don't know, dude. I thought Bruno Brazil looked good, but you want to go by the Dana White Contender Series rule. You know, you take the person that had a UFC fight. So I'm going to go, plus it's women's fighting. So I'm going to go with Denise Gomez, plus 130. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, Bruno Brazil's got a lot of power, but maybe Denise Gomez can get her to the ground at the headlock or something. I don't know. I'm going to go with Denise Gomez, though. We'll see. Fourth fight on the card, 155 pounds, men's lightweight. Lando VANNATA taking on Daniel ZELLHUBER. Sorry. Actually, yeah, went back at 155. Lando VANNATA was at 145 his last fight, so glad he's back up a weight class. Lando VANNATA, he took on Jourdain his last fight. Didn't work out for him, but now before that he took on Mike Grundy at 155, his actual weight class. In the first round, he circles on the outside. He crashes in with the hook and then a head kick, and then he jabs, lands a body kick, but then he gets clinched all the way to the fence. He looks for some lunge crosses, then he gets clinched up, though. And then the second round, he presses in the pocket with some 1-2s, and he'll just back out of range. He lands a 1-2, he'll rip the body, switch kick, lands a cross, but then he eats a straight right when he's backing up, kind of just open at range. But then he lands some hooks and a head kick. He feints the 1-2, it's too far out, and then he eats a cross, though. And then in the third round, he lands a knee off of Grundy's shot attempt, and then he gets doubled, but then he gets right back up. He's able to get his own body lock into scramble, slams him down on the ground. Really nice work, taking on the wrestler. And then he lands some body kicks and front kicks, and just kind of circles on the outside, now points him, and got it done, man. I thought he looked pretty good. And then Daniel ZELLHUBER, he took on Trey Ogden his last fight. This was his UFC debut. In the first round, he circles on the outside, and he looks for some blitzes, but a little too short when he rushes in. But then he gets some lead hooks at range. He looks for a head kick, but then he able to land some body kicks. Second round, he blasts leg kicks, lands some step-in jabs. He presses forward with some front kicks and then hook, but he misses most of them, getting a little wild. But then he gets countered with some jabs when he's moving in towards them. And then he just kind of walks into a double at the end there. Then in the third round, he presses forward with some hooks, rips the body, but then he'll just kind of back out so he doesn't get hit again. But then eats some jabs when he's coming in from range. Really tentative fight. He didn't really do much of anything, so I don't know what to make of it. But Daniel ZELLHUBER minus 135, Lando VANNATA plus 115. I'm going to go with Lando VANNATA. I'm going to go with the veteran, Daniel ZELLHUBER, to look the gun shy his last fight. I'm going to keep this train rolling. Lando VANNATA is going to be in his face. He's going to get inside of him. He's going to rip the body, rip the head. I don't think he's got to worry about too many takedowns. He's back up 155. I'm going to go for Lando VANNATA. I think it's just going to be experience. Is going to be a story of that one. Next up, we got, let's see which fight. Wow, yeah, there's a lot of prelims. All right. Fifth fight of the night, Jillian Robertson taking on Pierre Rodriguez at 115 women's strawweight. Robertson took on Maria Agapova her last fight at 125. She's making the drop down to 115. Red flag for me already, but let's look into it. In the first round, she blocks the hooks and she shoots, but then she gets caught in a guillotine, but then she's able to get to her feet, gets a single on the fence, but they get stuffed, and she eats some ground and pound, but then she's able to get under her legs, passes her legs, and she's able to take her back from there. But then back on the, can't really hold for too long, but then back on the feet, she walks into some side kicks and some 1-2s from Maria, but then she's able to shoot the single on the fence, but then she eats some elbows, but she finally finishes, able to get on her back, and then she works into a arm triangle position. Can't finish it, but it looks really good for her. And then in the second round, she ducks the straight, gets the body lock takedown right into an arm triangle attempt, and then she's able to take her back from there. Perfect setup, and gets a rear naked choke submission, like smooth like butter, and she used that arm triangle setup, and it was magical. And then Pierre Rodriguez, she took on Sam Hughes her last fight. In the first round, she circles on the outside, she backs out of the jabs, she'll level change and rip the body, land a combo, but then she eats some 1-2 at range, but she's blocking most of them, some were getting through, but then she shoots a low single, but she can't hold her down very long, and then she gets pressured, and she eats some jabs and some lead hooks, but she keeps circling out and just doesn't stand there and trade in the pocket with Sam Hughes. Then in the second round, she slips the jab, and then she landed a left hook, and she gets a single off of Sam's jab, not able to hold her down there. Sam Hughes did a really good job of getting up this whole time, but Rodriguez is still making those in there to break up the rhythm, and she's not wasting like too much energy getting them down, so I thought it was a decent strategy. She's using another single defense, and then she's able to keep the clinch this time, but then she eats some jabs circling out, and then she returns the overhand and a leg kick, and then she circles into a single, gets the clinch, and then she's able to land some knees from there, and then she retreats from jabs from Sam Hughes, and then she shoots to the clinch, and then she's able to land more knees in there. And then in the third round, she stuffs a single. She lands some tie knees from the tie clinch. And then she gets a step in single when she gets pressed. Can't hold her down, though. But then she gets pressed with combos, and she keeps her off with the jabs, keeps her at bay. So, relatively competitive fight. She looked pretty good. Sam Hughes is a tough veteran. She just got a win last weekend. So, Pierre Rodriguez plus 110, Jillian Robertson minus 130. I'm going to go with the slight underdog, Pierre Rodriguez, mostly because I just don't like when people drop weight, period. And, Pierre hung in there tough with a tough veteran like Sam Hughes. And Robertson, who knows how the weight cut's going to affect her. And, I'm just going to go with the underdog, basically. And as long as Pierre Rodriguez can not give Jillian her back, I think she'll be okay. She keeps sticking a move, and I think she beats Jillian on the feet. So, we'll see, though. Okay, which fight is this? And then, it's technically the feature fight on the prelims. 105 pounds, Zach Cummings taking on Ed Dirty Bird Herman. It's been a while since both guys have fought. Zach Cummings, he last fought at 185 pounds. He took on Alicio Di Chirico in 2020. And I don't think he's fought at 205 before, so it should be interesting. In the first round, he rushes with some jabs, but then he gets countered with the hook, and then he eats a big hook when he's going into the pocket. But then he stalks, lands a nice inside leg kick, but then he loses the pocket exchanges. He just kind of throws wild, gets clipped. And then in the second round, he lands a head kick and then a lead left hook. He lands a jab left hook, which wobbles him. And then he wobbles him with an inside leg kick. And then in the third round, he eats a counter left in the pocket, and then he gets pressed back with some hooks, but then he's able to land some counter lefts. Di Chirico just kind of get a little wild, but then he eats overhand off of his uppercut, and then he misses, overhand off of an uppercut, which he misses the uppercut, and then he ducks the hook, and he was able to land a left hook, but doesn't throw a follow-up, so he'll crack him with a nice shot, and Dietrich is just standing there, his face wide open, and he doesn't, like, throw another one, so I thought it was weird. But then he eats a hook flurry, but then he drops him with the head kick right at the end, back up against the fence, literally 1 second left to go. Drops him, and, you know, like, where was that the whole fight? So, I don't know, but I think that's what gave him the decision, so. And then Ed Herman, he took on Alonzo Manifield his last fight a little while ago. In the first round, he presses with some jabs, but he hits an overhand, and then he lands a check hook in the pocket, but then he walks into some jabs and some leg kicks by Alonzo. But then in the second round, he lands a lunge overhand, but then he eats a counter hook and a flurry on the fence, but then he's able to land some uppercuts in the clinch, doing some decent work there, but then he follows into a jab and then a cross, and then he gets wobbled with the leg kick, kind of standing at range. And then in the third round, he gets the clinch, and he throws his knee, and then he gets taken down off of there. But then he's able to get back to his feet. He lands a lunge overhand right. Throws a lunge overhand right, which misses, but then he lands the left overhand. So, relatively competitive fight, but I think, you know, Alonzo was keeping him. It was hard for Ed Herman to kind of find Alonzo. And, you know, Alonzo just, like, hit harder. But, you know, Ed Herman's, he gets in those clinches. He's dirty in there. So, Ed Herman, plus 190. Zach Cummings, minus 225. Yeah, I'm going to go with Ed Herman. Watch me be super wrong, but this bet just makes no sense. Why is Zach Cummings the biggest favorite? He hasn't fought in a long time. He's moving up a weight class. Yeah, they're both old, but, like, Alonzo Manifield's decent. And I thought Ed Herman, like, hung in there with him. So, we'll see. I don't know. I'm going to go with Ed Herman, plus 190. A lot of profit potential. Co-main event of the prelims should be a lot higher if you ask me. It should at least be the main event of the prelims, but whatever. 125 pounds men's flyweight. I hope to like violence. Brandon Raw Dog Royval taking on Matheus Nicolau. I think this is a title eliminator probably. I'm very excited for this fight. Both guys are all action. Matheus Nicolau hits like a truck. Raw Dog, they both took on Matt Schnell their last fight, so it's perfect comparison. In the first round, Brandon pumps his jabs at range. He lands some head and some body kicks. He lands a step-in overhand on the pocket, but then he eats a jab. And then he gets dropped with the right cross in the pocket. He tries to go for a leg lock, but then he eats some ground and pound. And then he runs back, tries to go for the omoplata, but then he escapes the guillotine attempt at Matt Schnell. Don't know why Matt Schnell went for the guillotine. But then he's on his knees, and then he grabs Matt Schnell in a guillotine on his knees, pulls the guillotine, gets a submission. Wild exchange. But Raw Dog got it done. Matt Schnell is tough as hell. Matheus Nicolau took on Matt Schnell's last fight. In the first round, he circles on the outside, kind of skirts the fence, and then he eats a 1-2 at range. But then he waits for Matt to throw a combo, and then he'll feint the right, and then he drops him with the lunge overhand left, and then he gets on him, lands some ground and pound, lets him up, doesn't want to gas himself out. Then he lands overhand right whenever he gets pressed, and he's able to block the hooks and just kind of circle out of range. Then in the second round, he landed a step-in left hook, which dropped him like right away. And then he lands another left hook whenever Schnell crashes into him, kind of wobbles him. But then he step back, he lands a lead right hook, and just gets the knockout. Matt Schnell hits the deck face first, and it was violent. And he was just so patient. And he's not a guy that has a lot of activity, but whenever he throws, dude, he was nuking him. Like, it was wild. Matheus Nicolau, minus 205. Brandon Royval, plus 175. I think Matheus is going to hurt Brandon. Brandon's got a decent chin, but Matt Schnell dropped Brandon. I see Matheus dropping him. And then Brandon's going to try to scramble, try to catch him into submission. I don't see that happening. And then, I don't know if it goes to the second round, but, you know, if he doesn't catch him in something, I think Matheus' striking is just too clean. He's too powerful. I think he wins those exchanges if they get into the pocket. So, I'm going to go for Matheus Nicolau, but the whole fight to go under 2.5 rounds, minus 125. Yeah, this fight's definitely going under 2.5 rounds. So, I'm going to go with that one. So, there's your bet. There's your safe bet. Finally, the main event of the prelims at 145 pounds, men's featherweight, Bill Algeo taking on TJ Downtown Brown. This fight doesn't really mean a whole lot, but people thought Bill Algeo was on a roll. Then he got but ran into Andre Fili. I think Bill Algeo beats TJ. He can kind of be fringe top 20 guy. So, should be fun. Bill Algeo took on Andre Fili his last fight. In the first round, he circles on the outside, but then he comes into some jabs and a cross from Fili. But then he lands the lead left hook, but then he eats a right cross at range in return. but then he gets rocked with the head kick, shoots a desperate single way too far out, doesn't get it, obviously, but then he lands overhand right in the pocket, but then he eats some head kicks while he's backing out. He lands a jab and a right cross, but then he gets clinched right after. Can't keep Philly off him. Then in the second round, he lands some jabs on him, he gets pressed, and some teep kicks. He lands a 1-2 blitz, but then he eats a body kick in return. He feints the hook, and then he's able to land a nice back kick, but then he eats a straight off of his front kick, but then he gets pushed back with some jabs. But then he lands some hooks and a knee from the clinch, so thought he kind of stole the second round. Then in the third round, he lands a side kick to the body and then to the head, pretty nice, but it doesn't like land flush. But then he eats a straight left when he's rushing in a combo, but then he lands a head kick, but then he gets blast doubled, gets put into the arm triangle, and then he gives up his back, and then he's just defending the rear naked choke the whole time. Philly almost has it, but ALGEO fought it. Props to him. And then ALGEO is landing a bunch of punches around his shoulder, so that's a whole nother debate. But I think if you take somebody's back, you win the round. Well, whatever. He looked okay. He just, couldn't get out of the back take. And then TJ Brown took on Eric Silva his last fight. In the first round, he rocks him with the right cross, and then gets a single leg off the fence. He's able to defend the guillotine attempt, and then he gets him down with a double again. But then he gets his back, puts like one hook in the left leg against the fence, but then he kind of slides off. Eric Silva grabs his arm, slides him off, but then he's able to use the leg lock to get up. Then he lands some elbows in the clinch, but then he eats some hooks in return when they're going at it. Then in the second round, he eats some lead hooks whenever he's coming in, but then he gets taken down with the high crotch crackdown, kind of walks right into it. But then he's able to work his way to the fence, and he's able to get the deep half, scoops underneath the leg, picks him up, reverses him, slams him down, takes his back again with one hook. But then he's able to drive to the double when they're on the fence, and he takes his back, gets both hooks in, and threatens a rear naked choke. So you think that momentum's going his way. But then in the third round, he rocks him with the counter right hook. And then he stuffs the shot, and he's able to reshoot the double, but then he eats a knee, and then but then he's able to get into half guard, and then he goes cross body, Kimura attempt, but then he switches to full guard, ground and pound, goes for the arm triangle, switches, gets the full mount, and then he jumps to the side, gets a submission. So pretty good showing from TJ Brown. He just, kind of loses the position sometimes, but TJ Brown plus 160 and ALGEO minus 190. Tough one, don't like the line. I like ALGEO. I thought ALGEO fought Andre Fili pretty well. Andre Fili's like the ultimate gatekeeper for the top 15. And he showed a lot of heart in that fight. And even though he got his back taken, he was still punching him in the face the whole time. And then TJ Brown, he might be able to out-wrestle ALGEO, but he doesn't keep position very well. He slides off the bag, and I think ALGEO will be able to scramble out. I think I can see ALGEO reversing and getting on his back. And then for the striking, I think ALGEO striking's better. I think TJ is just going to throw some wild shots, just try to get the takedown. I think ALGEO will have decent defense. I'm going to go with ALGEO here. Don't like the price tag, but, it is what it is. First fight on the main card at 155 pounds. Men's lightweight. Clay, the Carpenter Guida, still fighting. I think this is like 35th fight in the UFC. Taking on Rafa Garcia. This should be a fun one. This will be a good test for Rafa Garcia. Clay Guida is like that gatekeeper. Him and Jim Miller are like the gatekeepers to like the new guys making their debuts to see if they're going to be any good. So it should be interesting. Clay Guida took on Scott Holtzman in his last fight. And should have been a double retirement fight. In the first round, he gets pressured back, skirts the fence, and he looks for a 1-2 blitz. But then he looks for a counter left hook, but then he gets cut off on the cage. He eats some straights and a head kick, but he blocks most of them. But then he lands some lead hooks to the body, and then he gets but his takedown attempt gets stuffed, but then he lands a counter right hook off the jab. Then in the second round, he lands a straight to the body, and then he gets the double to the clinch. Can't really do a whole lot there. But then he lands a jab and an overhand to a double, and then the double lifts it off the fence, gets into full guard. Does work, not a ton of ground and pound, just enough to stay busy. But then he dips and lands an overhand on the inside. Then in the third round, he throws overhands, but then he eats some jabs at range. Then he eats some overhands up against the fence, and then he rips the body, jabs, and then he rips the body again. And then he gets around the back, and then he gets the double off the fence, and then just kind of rides him out for the rest of it. And he's decent at like getting a takedown again whenever Scott was working his way back up. But it took him a long time to get the takedown. But not a lot happened in that fight, to be honest. And then Rafa Garcia, he took on Haiser Maheshate his last fight. Maheshate is making his debut. In the first round, he shoots a double to the fence off of his knee, but he can't finish anything. But then he cuts him off on the cage, and he's able to land a left hook. Then he lands a left hook to the body. and then one body head, left hook body, left hook head, and then he lands a short right to the head, and then he gets to the fence, and he lands an overhand right, and then a left hook. And then in the second round, he misses the hook in the pocket, and then he eats an elbow counter, but then he eats a straight, but then he's able to get the double off the fence, lands some ground and pound, and he gets around his back. Can't really do a whole lot, though, but back on the feet, and then he rips the elbow, rips the body, and then he's able to get a bow step, single leg, and then he gets another body lock off of a step-in lunge, like lunge overhand from Mahashate. And then he gets around his back, lands some nice ground and pound there, finishes it off. And then in the third round, he catches a knee. He's able to get the double leg, but he gets him down. Mahashate works up, but he keeps the clinch. And then he gets a single. Then he's able to land a hook. But then he eats a jump knee, but then he gets another double leg takedown and kind of finishes it off. Ground and pound, like, he would keep him down for not very long, but he would land some decent ground and pound, and he would do it multiple times throughout the round, so it's enough accumulation of damage and control. But I think in the second round, Mahashate hit that elbow perfectly, like right behind his ear, so he was bleeding pretty bad. But Rafa Garcia is a dog, so I like seeing that. Garcia minus 265, Clay Guida plus 225. I just don't know, dude. Clay Guida, you know, he's way past it, but he still can do enough to beat guys that aren't very good. Rafa Garcia is not great, but I feel like he still has to prove himself. He's 28. He's got a lot of time to improve, and, you know, I just think I think this is a time with Guida. Guida's takedown abilities aren't great. I think Rafa gets stuffed pretty much every one of them. And I think, you know, they both kind of like to strike in the pocket, but Clay Guida doesn't really hit that hard, but I think Rafa Garcia can. And I don't know if Rafa is going to be able to take Clay Guida down, but I feel like as the fight goes on, he might be able to. But I just think he's going to be able to outstrike Guida in the pocket. But should be interesting. But I just don't see Guida like stopping him or doing much. And we'll see, man. Clay Guida outpace. I could see it the other way. Guida just like outpaces him, but I don't know. I think Rafa's going to get the better of the exchanges in the clinch. So I'm going to go with Rafa. But Rafa by decision, plus 110. Decent one. Second fight on the main card, 135 pounds, men's bantamweight. Pedro Munhoz taking on Chris El Guapo Gutierrez. Gutierrez 13, Munhoz number 9. We know what's happening here, right? They want Chris Gutierrez to move up. He had that big knockout against Frankie Edgar. And it's up to Pedro Munhoz to stake his claim as a gatekeeper for the top 10. So we'll see what happens, man. I'm excited. We just saw it go wrong with Yanez, but I feel like this is more appropriate step up for Chris. Munhoz took on Sean O'Malley his last fight. In the first round, he lands some step and leg kicks, but then he eats overhand at range, but then he'll circle, but then he eats some back kicks coming in. And he lands like a bunch of leg kicks, but that's pretty much it. And O'Malley's checking some of them. So then the second round, he eats a jab and an overhand when he's coming in, but then he backs out of the head kick. But then he eats a step in jab at range, but then he presses with some double jabs, kind of clips him, but then there's the eye poke that happens, and no contest. So before that, he took on Dom Cruz. In the first round, he misses the head kick, but then he eats a 1-2 at range, then he eats a jab and a step-in hook, but then he drops him with a jab off of a big overhand lunge by Dominic Cruz, and then he drops him against the fence with another left hook. Then he lands a jab and a cross against the fence, but then he gets pressed with a blitz, eats a hook, and then he eats some hooks in the pocket, and then Cruz just starts to take over throughout that fight. But, you know, he dropped Dominic Cruz, so. But then Gutierrez took on Frankie Edgar his last fight. In the first round, he jabs, and he lands a lead left hook. Then he lands a back fist whenever Frankie crashes into him. But then he wobbles on with a leg kick, followed with a jab. He kind of skirts the fence, feints the uppercut, and feints a jab, and then he lands a jump knee whenever Frankie comes into him, so. Yeah, and knocks him out because, you know, Frankie's chin's gone, so it was sad, but, you know, he got the job done at least. Before that, he took on Dana Baccaril. In the first round, he jabs at range, and he lands a leg kick, and then he lands some jabs, but then he eats a straight off of his leg kick and against the fence, but then he circles on the outside, and then he jabs. He lands a head kick, but then he eats a counter hook in the pocket, but then he's able to clinch him up, not take any more punches. But then he misses the back elbow, like with 30 seconds left, gets him out returned, and eats a bunch of ground and pound. A very low IQ move. That one concerned me, but Chris is minus 190, Pedro Munhoz plus 160. I've been going back and forth on this one. Chris Gutierrez is not going to knock Pedro Munhoz out. So, dude, I really don't know, but Pedro just didn't, like, do much against O'Malley, and this is more of an appropriate step up than Yanez and Font was. But that line, dude, like, I feel like it should be even, almost. Oh, this one's going to kill me. I think Chris will just be able to have more activity. Pedro might drop him or something in the first round, but as the second and the third round go on, I think Chris will be able to pick up the pace. Hopefully he does. And just kind of jab him, land some kicks on him. And Pedro's not really going to, like, try to take him down or anything. He might, but I think Chris will be able to defend it well enough. You know, I can see this going wrong, but I'm going to go with Chris Gutierrez. I think it's his time, and I think this is an appropriate step up. I think he'll get the job done. 3-round decision, I would say, because you can't knock Pedro out. Third fight on the main card. Yep, not the feature fight. 205 pounds, men's light heavyweight. Tanner the Bulldozer Boser taking on Ion Cutelaba. Tanner Boser moving down from heavyweight. This should be interesting. His last fight he took on Rodrigo Nascimento Fiera at heavyweight. In the first round, he lands some step-in jabs, but then he gets pressed and eats a hook, and he gets doubled off the fence, but then he works back up to the fence, and he gives his back, but then he's able to slide him off of his back, and then he's able to reverse and take his back for a little bit. Doesn't do a whole lot, though. Back on the feet, he eats overhand on the fence, but then he's able to get the clinch, not take any more punches. Then in the second round, he lands some step-in jabs and some overhands, kind of clips him. But then he's able to, like, and then he lands, he's able to land some leg kicks, but then he eats a cross whenever he's stepping in, then he circles on the outside, and then he rocks him with a step-in left hook, and then a hook flurry he gets on him, but he has, like, one big moment, but that's pretty much it. And then he gets taken out the double off the fence and gives up his back again, so who knows how that round gets scored. Then in the third round, he jabs the body, but then he gets doubled off of a step-in jab, just overextends way too much, and he's on the ground for a long time, but then he gets back up, and then he lands some hooks at the end, but not really. They're just kind of both going at it. So, like, he has a problem with, like, getting off the ground against people. And then Ian Cutelaba, he took on Kennedy and Zetrick his last fight. In the first round, he lands a leg kick, and then he lands multiple hooks, and then he lands overhand right, which rocks him, and then he gets around his back, and then he's able to trip him down. And then Kenny gets back up, but then he's able to work the outside trip, get into full mount, then half guard, but then and then Kennedy gets back up, but he's able to keep the clinch, and then headlock, and he tries to go for an arm block, straight arm block in, like, the scarf hold position, but then he gets reversed from there. Kennedy's able to come out the back. And then in the second round, they're throwing hooks in a gunfight, but then he eats a knee off of his double leg attempt, and then eats another knee, and he gets rocked, and then eats a hook flurry, and then he goes down from there, and then he just eats some more ground and pound from Kennedy and gets TKO'd. So, yeah, man, classic Cutelaba looked really good in the first round and just, like, had nothing left in the second round, I guess. But Ian Cutelaba minus 130 and Tanner Boser plus 110. I don't like people dropping weight. Tanner Boser has problems getting off the ground when he gets taken down. I think Cutelaba is going to be able to take him down. Cutelaba is definitely going to have a great first round. How did the second and the third round go? Who knows? But I think Cutelaba will be able to get him down and beat him up. And, you know, it's first cut for Tanner Boser, so who knows how that works. How's it, you know, it's a tough one. It's a weird fight. The line's pretty close. I'm going to go with Ian Cutelaba here. But, you know, I could see Tanner cracking him a couple times or keeping him away, but the whole fight's going to be predicated on that first takedown, I think, or if Cutelaba get him down in the first round. Because if not, like, Cutelaba doesn't, like, get stronger as in the third round. But then again, in the Devin Clark fight, he did. Like, he beat the shit out of him all 3 rounds. So, who knows, man. I'm just going to go with Ian Cutelaba. I feel good about it. I don't like the weight drop. Feature fight of the night. 205 pounds again. Men's light heavyweight. Dustin Jacoby taking on Azamat MURZAKANOV. Azamat trying to get into the rankings. Dustin Jacoby hanging around like number 15 or something like that. But he took on Khalil Roundtree his last fight. In the first round, he eats some hooks at range, but then he backs out of the hooks and he lands some jabs. But he feints his kicks and he lands some more jabs at range on Khalil. This fight action-packed, by the way. But he lands a jab and an uppercut against the fence. Then in the second round, he eats some light jabs, but then he finds crosses with the finds some openings whenever Khalil is just kind of throwing something out there. But then he lands multiple jabs and some leg kicks, and he looks for a cross or a straight on Khalil. but then he eats some lead hooks whenever he's coming into the pocket. Then in the third round, he eats a straight left whenever he's bringing up his knee. Gets knocked off balance, but then he eats an overhand at range, and then he's able to grab the single, and then he lands some more, like goes to single, and then just lands some hooks in the clinch, pretty clever. Then he shoots, and then he lands a knee, but then he eats an overhand off of his knee at the end. So it was back and forth, man. I really don't know who won, but you can't be mad they gave it to Khalil. It was close. I thought Khalil just landed the bigger shots. And then Azamat MURZAKANOV, he took on Devin Clark his last fight. In the first round, he rocks him with an overhand left in the pocket and then a left cross at range. But then he walks into a sidekick from Devin. But then he lands a big left overhand off of Devin's knee. But then he gets rocked with a head kick at range. But then he just clinches him up toward the end there. So, you know, got to watch. That's kind of concerning. But then in the second round, he rocks him with a jab and then an overhand left. And he gets around his back. And then he lands a hook to the body, and then he lands an uppercut. But then he breaks off the clinch, and then he rocks him with an overhand left. And then he gets into half guard and lands some nice ground and pound. And then in the third round, he jabs and lands a straight to the body, which drops him. And then he just jumps on top of him and gets some nasty ground and pound, gets a TKO victory. So, yeah, man, that body shot was deadly, and people didn't see it coming. So, Azamat plus 130, Dustin Jacoby minus 150. Tough one. I'm going to go with Dustin Jacoby. I just think he'll be able to keep it standing on the feet. Azamat's not he's not a great wrestler, and he'll clinch, but I think Dustin will do okay in those clinches. I think he can land some big shots. It's just Dustin Jacoby doesn't put a lot of power on his shots, but I think Dustin will be able to keep him off of him for the most part. He'll just be able to outstrike him, land more volume. And I think Azamat might make some mistakes as the fight goes longer. And I think Dustin can just kind of light him up and land his kicks and just kind of circle on the outside. I'm going to go with Dustin Jacoby, but we'll see. Co-main event of the evening, featherweight, 145 pounds. Pivotal matchup here. You got Edson Barboza taking on Billy Quarantillo. Billy trying to crack into the rankings, and Barboza just trying to prove that he's still here and he can still do the damn thing. Right now, you got Barboza sitting at 14. Billy trying to crack into the rankings there. So, should be an interesting fight. Kind of a lot on the line, I guess. Barboza took on Bryce Mitchell his last fight over a year ago, last March. In the first round, he circles on the outside. He pumps body kicks and he skirts the fence. But he lands some leg kicks in the pocket. But then he gets dropped with a right hook and then a straight left. And then he gets taken out with the double off the fence. Eats some ground and pound in full guard. But eventually, he's able to just kick him right off of him. So, that was nice. And then he slips the jab. Then he lands a left hook to the body and then a straight right at range. Then in the second round, he misses with a cross, but he clips him with a body kick, but then he gets taken out with the double. He's able to get to his feet, but then he gets taken down again with a body lock trip, and then he eats some ground and pound and half guard. Then in the third round, he lands some body kicks, but then he gets taken down with the blast double off of a step-in 1-2, stepped way too far out. Then he eats some ground and pound and half guard and mount, and it was ugly, but he hung in there, man. And, Mitchell's a tank, but... And then Billy Quarantillo, he took on Alex Hernandez his last fight. Hernandez was dropping down from 55, so it was interesting. But then the first round, he slides into a double jab, and then he catches a kick, but then he eats a cross in return. Then he eats a lead hook at range. He gets taken down, but Barboza's not going to take him down. So then in the second round, his back gets taken off of a jump kick, and then he eats some ground and pound. But he's back on his feet. He gets the overhook, lands the overhook. Sorry, he has an overhook in the clinch. He lands some knees inside the clinch. He's trying to circle off, cut off. He gets knocked off balance with the leg. He knocks him off balance with a leg kick. And then he shoots a single to the fence, but he can't finish. But it's good to break up the momentum. But then he lands some hooks and a jab in the pocket. And then he lands an uppercut out of that space. And then he gets a double. Shoots a double right hand. And then a straight combination. Then he gets a double leg takedown off the fence. Lands some ground and pound around the back. And then back on the feet, he lands a cross and an uppercut. And then he lands a hook flurry up against the fence. And then he lands some knees to the body and just gets a TKO. Just kind of unleashes on him. And Hernandez just ran out of gas at that point. So, Billy finishes strong. One thing you could say. Billy Quarantillo minus 170. Edson Barboza plus 145. I don't know. This is a hard card. You got a lot of veterans. I just don't think Billy Quarantillo is good, but he just relies so heavily on people gassing out, it seems like. And Barboza probably is going to slow down, but I think Barboza is going to crack him a lot on the feet. I don't think Billy's necessarily going to be able to get Barboza down that easily. I don't know, man. I've been going back and forth. I like Billy, but he just kind of throws a lot of volume. Sometimes he just can get a little sloppy and leave himself open. I think BARBOZA can land some nasty kicks on him and hurt him, keep him off. I think it'll be a dogfight, but I like that plus money on BARBOZA. I'm going to go with BARBOZA to keep his ranking. I don't know. I think he can get it done. I might be wrong, but I'd rather bet on the underdog. So I'm going to go with Edson BARBOZA here. Why not? You know, whatever. I'll probably be wrong. Main event of the evening at 145 pounds, men's featherweight. Max, the best is blessed Holloway taking on Arnold, the almighty Allen. Huge fight, needless to say. They're fighting for a title shot potentially. Obviously, Holloway needs Yair Rodriguez to win if he wins this fight. But Arnold, doesn't matter who's winning. If he beats Max Holloway, one of the greatest featherweights ever, he's getting a title shot. It should be fun, man. Like, I'm excited. Both guys action-packed. Both guys bring it. Both guys get into wars. Like, I'm excited, dude. I think this is going to be a war, and I'm here for it. Max Holloway took on Alex Volkanovski his last fight in the third title fight. In the first round, he eats some jabs when he's stalking and a blitz, but then he eats some right crosses and a hook inside the clinch. Then he lands some right crosses at range. Then in the second round, he eats some straight rights over top of his jabs in the pocket. Sorry, rights over his jabs in the pocket, but then he gets clinched to the fence and he eats an elbow, but then he's able to circle out of there. But then he lands some lunge straights, but then he eats a counter hook, overstepping a little bit. But then he eats a body shot, but then he's able to land a head kick off of it, but he just can't really get going. Then in the third round, he looks for some step-in crosses, but he misses. Then he eats some short hooks and an uppercut whenever he's walking into the pocket, but then he's able to land some jabs, but they don't really have a lot of steam on them. Then he lands a step-in knee, but then he gets clinched up toward the end. Volkanovski just get the body lock and like literally walk him to the fence. Then in the fourth round, he gets clinched. Then he eats a body hook and then an uppercut. But then he eats a 1-2 at range and he looks for the jab or the straight. But then he's able to land an uppercut and then a head kick in the pocket right at the end there. And then in the fifth round, he just kind of eats some jabs at range and he just like didn't really have much in the fifth round. And you know, it's kind of sad, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's taking a lot of damage, if he's past it or what, but, you know. But Volkanovski is good, though, so can't discount that. Then Arnold Allen took on Calvin Kattar his last fight. Very weird ending. There's only one round to go off of, but he looked pretty good. In the first round, he lands a step-in, straight left, and then he'll block the return, and then he backs out of range, and then he gets the body lock, and he parries the jab, but then he gets clipped with the 1-2, but then he lands a straight left, and then a left hook, and then he lands a straight left, and then a right, and then he just a flurry of straight shots off of Calvin's cross, and then he just rips the body right at the end of that combo, and then he jabs, lands some straight lefts at range, and then he circles out of a jump knee attempt from Calvin, and that's when Calvin hurts his knee, and then Arnold jumps on him and pulls that Darce right at the end. He didn't get it, but like, you know, he's got the killer instinct, so I thought that was exciting. There's only one round to go off of, and then before that, he fought Dan Hooker, but Dan Hooker was dropping down from 155, and he knocked him out, but they got into a gunfight, and, you know, I just don't know, man. Don't got a ton of data. Before that, he took on Sadiq Yusuf, and that was a while ago, so it's like the first time he's, like, been consistently fighting, so actually, June's kind of a little while ago, but you know, just interesting. Arnold Allen plus 140, Max Holloway minus 165. I don't think Max Holloway is washed, but I think he's less than what he was, and I think Arnold Allen, I think it's his time. But I don't know, man. I don't know if Arnold Allen's going to keep the pace over 5 rounds, but you're not going to knock Max Holloway out. Maybe a submission or something. I don't know. I don't think so. And I really can't tell you how it's going to happen, but I see Arnold Allen winning. Maybe he wins like the first 3 and Max takes over the last 2. But I don't know. It depends if Max that fought Volkanovski shows up or like the Max that fought Calvin Kattar is going to show up. I think Allen's going to be able to stay on the outside and just land some jabs and land some decently big shots. And then Max is going to seem like I think like he's going to chase him and kind of overstep his bounds. And maybe Arnold could shoot in for a takedown or something, or at least clinch him up and land some shots. I don't really know. But that's why we watch the fights, right? And I'm excited. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of great technique on display, so I'm excited. I'm going to go with Arnold Allen plus money. I just feel that momentum, and he's a dog. If he was a favorite, I would have bet on Max, but I just think you got to bet the dog in this fight. So I'm going to go with Arnold Allen. The whole fight to go over 4.5 rounds, minus 135, not a bad one. But I'm sticking with Almighty. All right, everyone. Thanks for riding with me. Appreciate it. Horrible week last week. This week, we're going to kill it because I did all my research and thought long and hard about all of them. But that's the fight game, man. It is what it is. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all that stuff. Like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate it. Leave a comment. Let me know what's going on. I'll take some advice because I'm not doing very well. But we can all talk and make each other better. Let's see some upsets. Let's see some violence. And let's see some profits. Good luck, everyone.